So now I'm really excited to present the next panel, which is called Bisexual Research in Brazil, together with a lot of great people. And we'll try to, which should be all together now and available. Yes, we can see them. I will try to do some brief presentations so we can get right at it. So I'm very proud to present Nanda Rossi. She is a PhD candidate in literature, Portuguese language. They are also substitute professor of the Cinema and Audiovisual Studies and marketing program at PUC Minas. They are a member of Media and Narrative Research Group, and all of the people that you're going to present actually part of the Brazilian Network for Studies on Bisexuality and Monodissidence. Specifically, Nanda Rossi, she is one of the coordinators also of GAEBI, Amazônida Group for Studies on Bisexualities. She researches bisexuality in literature and cinema, investigating issues of adaptation, aesthetic possibilities. She's been an activist since 2012, and she's been involved in organizing the first national meeting of the Brazilian Bisexual Movement and 3 edition of the National Seminar on Bisexual Studies. We also have Jamili Souza. She's a researcher and D&E consultant with a master in social psychology, and also a bachelor student in anthropology at the University of Brasilia. She coordinates one of the collectives of the, I hope I'm pronouncing this well, actually I'm trying to learn Portuguese a bit, as Avessas, studies in fashion, gender, sexualities, and decolonialities, and is a member of the Brazilian network, Rebim, also. Her research focuses on culture, sociology, and the psychology of dress, interweaving issues of gender, sexuality, coloniality, political economy, and fashion. We also have Ignacio Saldana, a PhD candidate in social anthropology at the University of Campinas and master in social anthropology at the same university. He coordinates GAEBI, the Amazonian Group for Studies on Bisexuality, since 2019, and is also a member of Rebim. And the Brazilian is also a member of the Brazilian Bisexual Front, the Brazilian Network of LGBTQ historians, and PAGU Center for Historian Studies. And as you guess, he studies classification of sexuality by plus history and activism and knowledge. Going on, I'll try to present them, then I will leave the floor to them, so bear with him. Some of course, you already met, like James Villas. They are a PhD candidate and graduate in social anthropology, and we heard their amazing presentation about the figure and history of important Brazilian figures in the bisexual movement and LGBTQI movement. And they also work on sexuality, violence, and gender and trans identities. We have Elisangela Dessa, graduated in social sciences at University State of Maringa and doing a master's degree on the same program. They are also part of Rebim, and they work on sexuality, gender, and bisexual relationship, and love and emotions. Then, lastly but not least, Felipe Carvalho Damascena. He has a bachelor degree of psychology at São Judas Tadeu University, and they work on the experiences of bisexual people in psychotherapy. They are part of the same network, as you, of course, have guessed after all this presentation. And today they're going to talk with us about doing bisexual research in Brazil and their challenges and what they're working out right now. So, who's going to start?
I can start. Nanda?
Okay.
Can you
Thank you.
start the presentation? Thank you, Aurelio. Thank you, everyone. I'm trying to remember. Okay. So my objective here is to understand the influence of historical and political changes on the knowledge production about bisexuality in Brazil. I will show, they made a cover. It's beautiful. But next one, please. Nanda. I conducted a literature review of publications that focus on bisexual category as their main object of study. In short words, I adopted a methodology that combines bibliometric analysis and content analysis. I found 219 publication records, the chronological arrangement reveals some modest numbers over the first 2 decades, including some years without a single publication, before a relevant increase started in 2014. This increase is not merely numerical, which is why 2014 is identified as the year when this bibliographic growth began. This irregular development shown in the graph that you are seeing can be divided into 3 distinct periods. So one, the first publications appeared as a result of the interest in HIV/AIDS between the late 80s and the 90s. And someone is working here. I hope you are not here. But the epidemic was highlighted in the press with many cases of discrimination as infection rates grew among women and children. The claim that bisexual men were responsible for that sparked public curiosity about those individuals. Who are the bisexual men? There was resistance to the use of this category in Brazil, like in the statement by the anthropologist and activist Nestor Perlonger, the notion of bisexuality was from the cultural context of the United States or even Europe and had nothing to do with that of Brazil. There were also discussions surrounding the formation of a homosexual political identity in the country. So homosexual and not gay in Brazil. And the resistance of, are you hearing the sounds here? I hope not.
Yeah, we can hear a bit, but
Okay. So the term men who have sex with men, MSM, began to be used in the mid-90s as an effort to highlight practices and avoid the tensions surrounding identities. But it was these initial questions that placed bisexuality on the still incipient map of sexuality studies in Brazil, where the social sciences and the psychology were approaching public health. Anthropologist Richard Parker, an author of important books on the Brazilian bisexual culture, has since devoted himself to studying the epidemic and its effects on social and sexual life in Brazil. The second period is characterized, the 2000s, is characterized by studies on identity, and the scientific interest in men and health also declines, as before the works are written by people who do not seem to identify as bisexual. But now the number of female authors and works on women rises. This is a time of consolidation and visibility for the LGBT movement in Brazil, a greater institutionalization of gender and sexuality studies, and the nationwide introduction of queer theory in this field of study. In this context of movement segmentation, the first organized groups of bisexual activists were created, making activism a new empirical field for research. Postgraduate work of the time approaches the queer perspective of denaturalizing identities, generally through Judith Butler's theories on performativity, identity, and social movements. And in the last decade, the third period, the studies on bisexuality enter in new disciplines and in the poorer regions of Brazil. These publications, mostly by undergraduate students, also led to the first works in media, visual arts, design, history, law, administration, marketing, and cinema. This moment is deeply influenced by the narratives and categories from the bisexual activism and that developed and multiplied during the same period. Studies on bisexuality in terms of representation in series, films, music videos quickly made the media one of the main disciplines. With the emergence of the Besides group in São Paulo in 2010 and the creation of its Facebook group in 2014, which brings together thousands of people, these online spaces have multiplied. This has led to the introduction and gradual popularization of the notion of biphobia and terms like monosexual. The third period coincides in next slide, please, Nanda. This third period coincides with political crisis in Brazil, where discussions on gender and sexuality have become the center of public controversy. The reception of the concept of decoloniality and the strengthening of queer theory, intersectional feminism, and cyberactivism in the country, following the popularization of the internet and the universities. The events also happened during the COVID-19 pandemic and Jair Bolsonaro's government in Brazil, where conservative groups are consolidating their power. In 2020, the Brazilian Bisexual Front was created. It's a network of collectives and independent activists that began to coordinate the bisexual movement nationally. In 2021, the Amazônida Group for Studies on Bisexuality, GAEBI, that was created in Belém do Pará, in the Brazilian Amazon, in 2019, held the first Brazilian conference for bisexual studies, the CENAB, on the internet. In 2023, GAEBI becomes the Rebim, the Brazilian Network for Studies on Bisexuality and Monodissidence. We use the term monodissident, and we hope we have the second CNB. We use the term monodissident to refer to people who are attracted to people of more than one gender, instead of bi plus, which puts bisexual people ahead. The bi plus category is often used in Brazil, but is usually criticized by bisexual, pansexual, and polysexual activists in this country. Also in 2023, Rebim supports and participates in the first Brazilian Bisexual Movement Conference you are seeing in this photograph. In Brasilia, the Brazilian capital. The third CNB happened this year and is the only national bisexual movement event nowadays. So we can see some relations in how the studies on bisexuality began before a bisexual movement in Brazil, monodissident, and in how the creation of bisexual activism in Brazil starts to influence the studies on bisexuality here. Next, Jinx.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Ignacio. Nanda, you can go. Thank you. So I wanted to begin my short intervention, which is about a theme I have already presented earlier today, as Aurelio just mentioned, by asking you to look at this picture. It depicts Renildo José dos Santos and his daughter. Renildo was then a 36-year-old elected city councilor from Coqueiro Seco, Alagoas, in the northeast region of the country. The councilor was a vocal advocate for rural workers' rights, which led to tensions with local landowners and politicians. In 1993, Renildo made a statement on a local radio, coming out as bisexual. Shortly after, he faced accusations of indecency and had his mandate suspended. Renildo then received death threats, was kidnapped, tortured, and brutally assassinated. His remains were discovered, dismembered, and burned over 90 kilometers away from his home, leaving his family to never see him again. The case gained attention from national and international LGBTQ+ rights groups. The crime was included in the 1994 Amnesty International report, which denounced violence against human rights activists and rural workers in Brazil. In the report, Renildo was identified as homosexual. The Australian Bisexual Network created in 1997 the Renildo José dos Santos Memorial Award, referring to Renildo as bi/gay. And important bi personalities such as Robin Ox, Alejandra Sardá, and Lani Carromano were awarded this award. In Brazil, where there was not yet an organized bisexual movement, which only began to take shape in a very incipient way in the mid-2000s, Renildo was referred to by the gay group of Bahia in its annual bulletin as Brazil's foremost gay martyr. While most organizations refer to Renildo as homosexual, a growing bi movement in Brazil argues now that his memory should be framed as a victim of biphobia, not just homophobia. And the analysis of the tension surrounding this case reveals how memory, identity, and justice are not static, but are constantly contested by various actors. For my PhD thesis research at the State University of Campinas, which is partly funded by the São Paulo Research Foundation, I have been researching the construction of memory around this case. My methodological approach combines ethnography, interviews, and archival research to understand how different actors, including his family, the state, and social movements, have framed and continue to frame his identity and the experience of violence associated with the case. I analyze how these narratives reflect broader political disputes over what constitutes violence, who is remembered, and on what terms. By doing so, I aim to shed light on how gender, sexuality, race, class, and regional inequalities inside Brazil are shaping the production of memory and victimhood. What happens then when a bisexual man becomes posthumously a gay martyr? What aspects are raised and which ones are made visible? So these are some questions that my current research is trying to answer. And my research not only aims to contribute to anthropology, which is my current, the degree I'm working on, but also seeks to enhance our understanding of justice, memory, and rights in a nation such as Brazil, which is still grappling with the lingering effects of violence, silence, and impunity from its authoritarian past. Remembering Renildo serves as an important reminder that his life mattered, and that the manner in which we remember by lives and his life holds equal importance. Thank you.
Great, Jinx. My turn now. Nanda, please. Yeah, that's it. Hello, everyone. My name is Felipe. I'm a psychologist, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about how the bisexual activism has pushed psychology forward. We all know that mental health is an important issue for bisexual people because of the forms of violence that we face, and the stigma and all the prejudice and how that causes harm to our mental health. So it is known that psychology is not the only important field on this issue, but it's an important one. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit. In 2016, Besides, which is Bisides, a bisexual organized group of activists, has made some pressure on the São Paulo Regional Psychology Council and bringing attention to them on the stories of bisexual people that has faced biphobia in psychotherapy by psychologists. So they made the Psychology Council in São Paulo made an event to bring awareness on this theme, and it was really important because many students, many professionals on this field then started to think about it and were aware of the biphobia that were faced by bisexual people, even in psychotherapy. And I was there, and it made me study this theme. I did a research on it and on the experiences of bisexual people in psychotherapy. And unfortunately, I discovered that actually many bisexual people face biphobia by their therapists. but it is important that the matter is being more heard of. Also in 2017, 2018, BiSides also made bisexual experience validation circles by some psychologists that were part of this group of activists. So we see how psychology and activism can work together and contribute to each other. Also, the Brazilian Bisexual Front, which is a organized group of bisexual activists, has made some pressure on the Federal Psychology Council on this specific matter, right? On the responsibility, the ethical responsibility of the professionals of psychology in regards of bisexual people, on bisexual people healthcare. And so by this union of the bisexual activism and the psychology institutions, it was turned in 2022 a law, a resolution that makes each and every one of the psychology professionals responsible on this matter. And it's an important achievement for the bisexual people because it makes it legal. This brings legal attention to this matter. So we can see that since then, this few last years have been produced many important researches on the bisexual, actually on about bisexuality by psychologists. For example, Melissa Jagger, which has heard many bisexual activists and has bring contributions on the social and suffering, social distress that bisexual people face. Thais Arnaud, that has been researching the intimate violence that bisexual people face in relationships. Maria Eduarda Del Duque, Angélica Nobre, Isabela Moreira, that has been made important contributions, not only on the psychotherapy, individual aspect of the mental health, but also in a more, in a bigger way of seeing health, and also in prison context, and in Amazon, and in many other ways that bisexual people can be taken care of, and that their mental health can be taken care of. So we see that even though in psychology graduation, there is this thought that activism might harm the real science, what we really discover is that bisexual activism contributes very much to the science, to the academic field, and to the psychology responsibility on the mental health of bisexual people. So that's what I wanted to bring to you guys, and now let's hear Elisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Elisa. My research is about the perceptions of love and relationships for bisexual women and their narratives around it. For this presentation, we'll discuss a piece of my dissertation in development. So I'll start with love. Love is actually is usually speak as a human feeling bound to cognitive, being spontaneous and universal. However, love is a conception, society, construction, having different meanings depending on the context in it. It is a feeling mediated by cultural discourses, gender norms, and power structures that modifies in different times and societies. We are influenced by different institutions like family, school, religion, friendships, media, among others. In a specific case of family, marriage arise as a way to ensure the maintenance and continuity of patriarchal family, which the patriarchy cisgender man most needed to have a wife and kids to that would become his future reign, enabling the father's family name to remain active in society, guaranteeing social status. However, over time, this narrative changed and was constructed the idea that marriage was only based by the love of a couple, cis heterosexual, had for each other, being this act the proof of true love. Uh, this logic highlight the heterosexual and colonial norms in which only people who correspond to this expectation were accepted. So bisexual people and dissident people are not in this expectation. So bisexual people experience stigma and invisibility for not satisfy this expectation, experiencing creating affective hierarchies. So who deserve to be loved, who will first be chosen by to a relationship, a romantic relationship, and can be will mental health, like other research already said that bisexual people suffer most mental illness. Here I put a schema of uh, uh, first the patriarchy and colonialism, just to demonstrate how this works in society. So here, Nanda, you can pass to another slide. Okay. Here I put a phrase that my insider said during a focal group I did with another 5 women who identify as bisexual or pansexual or pansexual. Asked them about their think about what was love. The answer, this answer here, I thought was really interesting and new for the way common sense things are represented in media, public, what is love or most in romantic love. And so here she said, so I think I am attached to a gender or just one, or I don't think I attached to a gender or just one person. I think we can be very fluid in our relationships. Our friendships are also our love, different, maybe with less intensity than with our partner, probably, but still is love. So I think this is interesting to think that another means of love and experience can be researched and tell by people, né? As a bisexual person, né? We do research with our experience, né? Understand and conception that also sees the reality of us and not from cis heterosexual norms. So I think that's it. Jamil.
Thank you, Elisa. So, hi everyone. My name is Jamília Souza. As said before, I'm a fashion researcher with a master's degree in social psychology. And today, I'm here to talk a little bit about some Brazilian bisexual studies that have gone beyond the perspective of the fight for our rights, the biphobia, and the psychosocial suffering Of course, these aspects must be talked about as presented by my colleagues. But especially in recent years, as a community and researchers, we also have been discussing what are the other things we can talk about regarding bisexuality that go beyond the difficulties, the suffering, the distress of being bisexual. So in my master's research entitled Waving Identity at the Borderlands, which was heavily inspired by the work of Gloria Anzaldúa, I explored how different bisexual women have been creating their identities through dressing. As a way to anonymize the participants of my work while still showcasing their aesthetics, I drew their photos, as you can see here, swapping their faces and backgrounds. And I brought two of those images here today. So in the first image, we see the one from the left. We see Paula with short hair, a spiral ear gauge, and wearing neither clothes nor makeup, but with a body posture that, like her hair, can be read as more masculine. Thank you, Nanda. And in the other drawing, the one in the right, we see Fernanda, who's dressing with her floral skirt and top, is seen as more feminine. Both women are bisexual, but the first one, Paula, is married to a cisgender heterosexual man. However, because she has what we might call lesbian possibility, her marriage is not recognized by her husband's family, who believe she is deceiving him, the husband. But at the same time, she says her aesthetic protects her from male harassment on the streets. Fernanda, on the other hand, has been dating only women for years. But because she's socially considered heterosexual, she experiences more harassment from men on the streets and quite literally, as we can see here, she needs to have a rainbow painted on her face to be recognized as queer, even by her own community. Fernanda, the next slide, please. Or Jinx, I don't know who is showing. In a work that addresses a similar issue, Vic Anger created an audiovisual documentary entitled Bichas, using the pun bi from bisexual, bi, with the expression bicha, which in Brazilian Portuguese has a similar meaning to the English expression queer or maricas in Spanish. The film features narrative from the life stories of bisexual men who, because they are more feminine, have the dressed bodies read as gay. So in this sense, bisexuality is not even seen as a possibility. Both works show that the issue of bisexual possibility is much more complex than how the LGBT plus community itself handles it. The suffering related to the non-recognition is also made explicit. But more than that, in both works, bisexuality also appears as having the capacity to destabilize the Western binary episteme, built on the certainty of body's appearance and aesthetic, well-defined identities. Can you pass the slide, please, Fernanda or Jinx? In other works, such as Helena Monaco's doctoral thesis, Entre Mundos, and Inácio Saldanha's oral presentation, Cadeira, Camisetas e Bandeiras, presented this week at the 20th Fashion Colloquium in São Paulo, have also raised the issue of how Brazilian bisexual communities have been attempting to construct, whether on social media or in the streets, symbols of bisexual recognition, such as the use of cat's eye eyeliner, a lot of times with color on the eyes, along with rolled up t-shirt sleeves, or even the use of a fiction, as you can see on the images from on the left, or even the use of a fictional soccer team jersey created by Adidas in partnership with the bisexual Brazilian singer João, which sold out in stores and was duped and appropriated by Gen Z bisexuals and on the LGBT plus parade, the Pride Parade in São Paulo. The jersey is the one on the right. So whether through the creation of common symbols or the destabilization of aesthetic certainties, the Brazilian bisexual movement and academic research have shown how bisexuality can be a place of great creative power. Thank you. And I'm going to pass now to Fernanda.
Thank you, Jamile. I will ask Fernanda to stop sharing very quickly so I can share, because she will need to. Yeah, thank you, Nanda.
Thank you, Jinx.
You can go.
So can you see me and are you listening to me?
Yeah, we
Yes?
can see you, Nanda.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So I will finish this group presentation with some thoughts I have bubbling in my head right now. As Aurelio said, I'm my PhD in literature, but I can say I'm a bisexual researcher on bisexuality in fiction. So cinema interests me, literature, art in general. I'm always thinking about possibilities of more complex representations of bisexuality. So I'm gonna end with these talks, and I think there's a connection with the things Jamil said. So that's it. First, I wanna say I see now, after some years of research, a relation that is not exactly a relation. So we have demands of the movement, of the bisexual movement, and I think they are not exactly combined with the characteristics of art. I'm going to explain this. Usually, I see the movement as asking for representations that are saying all the time in the dialogues, I'm bi, I'm bi, I'm bi. So repetition and a text that says bisexuality is here in this fiction. And I think that's important. I think that we need that. I'm not saying we don't need that anymore. We need that, but I'm starting to think we can find other forms of bisexual representation. So if we are a group and we exist in a non-binary way, in an ambiguous way, I think art has those aesthetic tools that can combine with that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the only way to create representation that is complex, that is I don't like the good or bad representation, but a representation that are nice to us, better to us. I don't think we can always say it's just on the text, on the dialogue, actors saying I'm bi repeatedly. So that's what I'm trying to find right now in Brazilian works of art, And I have an example that I think is very complex. That is a play by Nelson Rodrigues. He's a very famous and important writer here in Brazil. So this play is called O Beijo no Asfalto, something like Kiss on the Asphalt, on the street. There is a man who is dying, and there's another man who kisses this man, and the kiss starts a chaos in this community, in his family, and in media, in police, because it was considered a homosexual movement, and that's not right. So this man, the man who gives the kisses to the man who dies, he's married to a woman, and his life almost falls apart after the kiss. And the play does not close the ambiguity. The play leaves it open that the motivation of the kiss is exactly an act of empathy and compassion because he asked to be kissed. The play does not close that. The play leaves it open. So the man that gives the kiss, he never says, "Oh, I never met him. No, I'm not bi. No, I didn't want to. I didn't like it." Actually, in the end of the play, he says it was a moment of refresh in my life, the kiss. So that's interesting representation for me. And also the movie adaptations, we have 3 movie adaptations of Nelson Rodrigues' play, and one of them, I think, tries to replicate this doubt that there is in the text. So if this character in the text is always saying phrases like short phrases, inexactly words, different from the others characters. In the movie, the camera is always like suggesting some things. An example. There is a scene where the policeman is asking the guy, "Oh, so you kiss everyone? So you kiss men? If I ask you a kiss, will you kiss me right now?" And the camera goes behind this policeman and approaches the guy who gave the kiss, and the camera almost kiss the guys. So I think there is an aesthetic tool that is interesting to evoke some sexuality that is fluid and without saying all the time, "Oh, this guy is bi." Not saying again, this is not important, but right now I'm researching some other aesthetical tools like in literature and cinema and etc. So the last one, Jinx, please, just for me to finish. Thank you. I'm gonna read this briefly. So if there, those are my words from an article, a paper I wrote recently. If there's difficulty or rather some level of impossibility in capturing reality through fiction, then imagine a reality of a highly complex, fluid, non-binary, invisible, socially rejected desire. I'm interested in investigating from now on how to represent bisexuality, and I'm also exploring and analyzing the diverse formal strategies that literature and cinema offer this group. I intend also to discover where and how we best find represented ambiguity, doubt, escape, and multiplicity. Those are my questions here, and I'm also I want to finish with saying thank you all. This is my second time here on this conference, but it's my first time with my friends. I want to celebrate the Brazilian researchers in Brazilian bisexual movement. We are creating great things, and you should see what Brazilian activists and researchers are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Nanda. Thank you, everybody, for the research group in Brazil. There are so many interesting thoughts and so many things that I want to ask, but we're still on the verge at the end of our journey for today. But if there's anyone has any question from the audience, and then we can maybe have some questions, because I do have a lot, but I don't want to steal too much time. Okay. Well, just to oh yes, please share your socials here, but also in the Discord. I would really like to ask you, like, by building, if you can provide some insights on what helped in building a research group. And like, I know there's a lot of history, but if you could share some insights or some suggestions for people in different national contexts, especially in the global south, who wants to do the same thing. If anybody also from the Rebim or for the group wants to provide some insights, like what helped you, what do you want to give some suggestions, some inspiring words for that.
Oh, I can say something about it. I would say the an insight for creating a research group is the same thing that I think is important for any bisexual group, which is having an effective way of conducting things and working and bringing people together. You know, I think bisexual people are a social group that lacks affection and care and feel lonely and in most spaces in their lives. So any bisexual space should be a group in which a space in which bisexual people will feel they are welcome. So this is the more important thing in creating any bisexual space, a research group or any other kind of group. I think it's the way Rebim is working in, I don't know, 5 years, and these close relations between the people are something that are making Rebim, how can I say that, to be alive, to keep working with the passing of the years and still creating in other things and being provoked to try other projects, events, ideas, and other ways to think about the problems that we are already know about visibility and homosexuality and everything. So we start to think about how can we work with these things and in other ways, like what is monosexism, what is biphobia, why should we use these terms, and what is their history. And I think these close relations, this effective way of working, of caring, of listening and hearing people, it's something that makes a group keep working with the years. I think it's very important.
Thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have some questions from the chat. Someone, Tiobesta, they missed the part why Biplus has a bad reputation. I guess when Nanda was talking, if you want to get up a bit on this. And also, Yeserios Rivera asked, there was a mention that Biplus as a term puts bisexuality at the forefront. Is there concern about the use of the term monodissidence, that it recenters mononormativity? So now we go on the epistemological and queer theoretical questions that we absolutely love at this time of the day. That's actually a very interesting point. Like, since you're talking about monodissidencia, do you think that might send us, like, we go from bi prefix to instead of the pan, and then we go back to mononormativity, and I think sometimes, like, we use mononormativity to mean different things, like monosexuality normativity, but also mono relationship normativity. So, like, what can we say?
I think the question is what words work for us as Inácio has said, we have to think about the words, the story of those words. And we, in Brazil, as we have different movements, so Brazil is a very diverse country, as everyone knows. And we, as bisexuals who are not included usually at the LGBT plus movement, we know the importance of inclusion and the bringing the diversity to the center of the decisions, the construction of the movement. So here we think the dissidence is a great word. So it's not like we are centering the mononormative word, we are centering the dissidence here. And I think this is what I think about it. If anyone has other words on mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Just to say aloud that it remains in the recording. We have Robin Oxer says, before we have that conversation, every one of these words is the preferred, best, most comfortable one for some folks. Other words work best for others. I don't believe any one word is the best word. When I use by plus in my own programs, I always start by saying that the plus is real and it indicates that there are multiple other equally valid terms, which is, I think, a fair discussion that which, as bi plus community, we should have and encourage this kind of theoretical thinking and what is the meaning behind words. And of course, I think also it shapes differently depending on different conversation in different national context. And we're really happy to have the conference now that we're going for the closure, and then I will pass the word to GAEBI. But I think the most important achievement that we can have here is have a space in which different national groups with a different intersection, people with binationality, bilinguage, and everything can share. We can discuss openly this in the hopes that one day we have an in-person global conference again. So if you want to support economically our BRG conference, maybe one day we can do it. If there's any great donation here. Joking aside, we're really happy to have the Brazilian group and researcher on bisexuality and monodissidence. And tomorrow is going to be another great day. And I'm going to shift and pass the baton to GAEBI. So thank you again for talking. We're going now moving to the closure of this first amazing day. GAEBI, the floor is yours. And thank you everybody again.
Thanks, Aurelio. Okay, yeah, so we're just gonna do a little brief closing statement for the day. Anyone who saw the program probably noticed that we were supposed to have a poetry reading, a very brief one, but unfortunately, the person who was supposed to do that couldn't join us at the end of the day in the end. So I'll just offer some very brief words of closing, and then we can end off our day. So with the most heartfelt feelings, thank you to everyone for being here with us after an amazing day of Bi+ stories, experiences, community building, and monodissidence. We would like to thank all of the speakers for their work, which has been extraordinary, and the audience that has followed us for the entirety of the day today, because the questions have been coming and have been so wonderful. They have generated so much discussion, both verbally and in the chat box. And without both the work of the panelists and the people who are attending and watching this, none of this would be possible. So we thank you all for your engagement and your willingness to be open and to share your stories and to discuss anything related to Bi+ lives. And yeah, also thank you for all of the resources that you have shared in the chat. Ellen, I believe, created a document that will be shared with all of you at some point. And for the good vibes that we have experienced on a consistent basis today. It really has been a great way to kick off the conference for this first day. And on that note, we'll see you all tomorrow for an even more amazing day of Bi+ research and community. We will keep it going. Come prepared to ask questions. Come prepared with an open mind and with a willingness and a want to engage with all of the stuff we'll be hearing tomorrow.